Hey, what's going on, guys? I got a special guest here today. We have Ben Reinberg. He started building his commercial real estate empire at 24 years old with nothing but shoe leather and a lot of hustle. Today, he owns over $500 million in assets across the country and shares his wealth building, commercial real estate investing, self improvement, and leadership's insights and knowledge with his audience around the world. He's also the founder and CEO of Alliance. Ben, how are we doing today?
Great, Jordan. Thank you very much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me. It was good seeing you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to share your story with everyone. So, Ben, where does it begin? Where do you start?
I started when I was younger. I was 8 years old, and I grew up next to a town that had the most bars per square feet capita in the United States. There was a lot of drinking and smoking going on. Back then, cigarettes were acceptable. And I'm talking about real cigarettes. I'm not talking about the gross vaping that goes on. Uh, and so when I was 8 years old, I used to sell Marlboro Reds cigarettes in bars and make and take the arbitrage to spread. And that's how I started making money when I was younger. And I've been working ever since. And I always wanted to start my own business. And
And
yes,
right there, what inspired you at such a young age to kind of go after that? Like, were you seeing it with your parents? Was it community? Because I mean, most 8-year-olds are like, just give me the toy now.
yeah.
And if I don't get the toy now, I'm gonna cry.
What
You went out there and did it.
Yeah, because there was no internet, so I had nothing distracting me. You either watch cartoons, you get up on Saturday morning, you have your bowl of cereal, your Fruity Pebbles or Cocoa Pebbles or Captain Crunch or whatever was your cereal of choice. It was always sugar cereal when we were kids. And then we did sports. We played sports. I was a huge sports junkie. I played basketball, soccer, hockey, football. I mean, I was big in sports because you go out and play at a park. And so nowadays, even with my kids, like they wouldn't even know what a park looks like and playing. Some of them do. My kids are athletes, but so what ended up happening was I was really big into candy. And I still am. I'm a huge candy buff. Anyone that knows me, I have a sweet tooth when it comes to candy. It's one of my Achilles heels in life. And when I was younger, I grew up down the street from a 7-Eleven, and it was the greatest thing in the world because Slurpees were amazing in the hot summers of Chicago. To go with your father to get a Slurpee was a great bonding moment. Me and my dad did, and my older brothers. And so, as my dad worked a lot, uh, he worked downtown in the city of Chicago. Uh, I wanted to make money. I saw I didn't come from a lot of money. We weren't poor, but we weren't wealthy. And I always see people driving by our street, and I grew up in an affluent area, but we didn't have that kind of money. And I would see people driving Mercedes and Rolls, and Jaguars were big when I was a kid. And I said, how do people get that type of wealth? And I was curious as a young age. And so I just realized, I said, you know what? I want to make money to buy my own Slurpees, my own candy. And long story short, I walked into a bar because in the town next to me, you could walk in the bars as a kid. It wasn't really regular like it is today. So you'd walk in, the smoke would be up and going. And long story short, I'd see a cigarette machine, I'd see the cost. And then I looked at it, and I found out, I don't remember how I found out. I found out what a carton of Marlboro Reds cost. And I remember talking to I think it was one of my older brothers, and I said, "Can you help me do the math? How does this work?" And they said, "Okay, well, if a carton of cigarettes is $8 at the time, and you get 12 packs, it costs you X." And I saw the machine. I said, "Oh." And so I would walk in the bar, and with a pillowcase underneath my sports gear. I used to wear like an Adidas rockin', Run DMC, but it was back in the 70s when it was cool, or Fila. And I'd wear and I'd unzip it. I'd have the cigarettes in a pillowcase. I'd grab one, sell it to a guy for whatever I sold it to him for. It was a long time ago in the 70s, and give me cash. And I just kept the ball moving. And, I did that for some time. And and that stopped, came to an end, and then just been running ever since and worked ever since. And then when I was in my 20s and I graduated from Indiana, Jordan, I realized that I wanted my own business, but I got into accounting because the economy was horrible when I graduated from Indiana. And my mother said, you got to get a job. You need a job. And, the girls all wanted guys that lived downtown in the city of Chicago. That was the hot ticket. So I always wanted to live downtown. So I moved downtown. And long story short, I took the approach where I said, okay, it's time to get started. And so I bought my first deal and syndicated it. Yeah.
Yeah. One sec. First of all, I think it's incredible that you took the action step at 8 years old when you're like, I don't really know what's happening, but we're going to invest and we're going to try to make it happen. And then you kind of brush over it a little bit, but you do have a CPA, right?
Yeah, I am a CPA. I started in accounting. I did that for a year, was influenced by a lot of people. And I always wanted to start a business. And I was not fond of accounting. That's why I have some of the best accountants that work for me for years. But the nice thing is, because I understand accounting, I understand exactly what they do. Okay. And that has a real benefit. And I remember I'm grateful for my parents for pushing me to get an accounting degree from Indiana, because when I went to school there, it was in the top 5 business schools that I
Oh,
graduated.
wow.
So I got an incredible education from Indiana.
Was that was the leaving the CPA, like, was that always part of the plan? Because funny enough, I actually had a similar instance where I graduated from University of Tampa with accounting and honors, and I tried doing the CPA thing, and I was like, I got a 69 on the FAR exam, and I was like, no way. Like, it was so close, and I worked so hard because it was 4 parts. And then I realized, I was like, you can only sign off on an audit with the CPA. I don't need a CPA to start a business. And after that, I was like, okay, no more CPA tests. Just start the business. But you went all the way through, which is incredible.
So I took the exam, I passed it, and I went through my first tax season, and I would look at the partners and see how miserable they are. And I'm like, this is not for me. And so, long story short, that's when I started opening my eyes to opportunities and got into commercial real estate and been running ever since. And there's no better business in the world than what I do. And what I love about it is it's a marathon business, and it takes a long time to develop a lot of experience, knowledge, and gray matter between your ears to become really good at it. So it's a high barriers to entry business to do what I do. It's one thing if you want to do brokerage, which anyone can kind of walk in and be trained, but to be a principal and be a fiduciary of capital, underwrite deals, and be able to teach and influence and grow in the business is quite challenging. And so very proud of where I've come from and how far I did. I'm very proud. I have an incredible leadership team of 200 plus years of experience that works for me. And at the end of the day, it's just a really, really gratifying feeling to see the people around me, especially my employees, thrive and have incredible opportunities to grow personally and financially and become incredible businessmen and women at Alliance, my company.
That's it. That's incredible. And I love the fact that it's not just about the, hey, you're maybe the front desk person, or maybe you're the accounting person. Like, even before the call, you were talking about how you're like, I genuinely care about these employees. Like, we have to make these employees, because if they're not happy, then no one's happy. And like, it always starts, and I know you talk about this a lot, but that white glove service where it's like, hey, we're more than just this. Like, we do a lot, but at the same time, we're accomplishing a lot.
Well,
Yeah.
you can't do it alone. You just can't. You can't grow. You can't financially grow. You can't be fulfilled. So I realize if you bring in talented people and you can grow them and build loyalty, it's one of the hardest things in this market is to build loyalty. There's a real art to it. And I've realized that if I treat my people well, I build a good culture, I treat them like family, and I allow them to thrive and have ownership in what we're doing, then, the opportunities are limitless and they're plentiful. And that's what I offer people that come to Alliance. I offer them a life. I have a lot of single parents that work for me, and some of them came from real challenging backgrounds. And so it inspires me that I can take a woman that is a single parent, not college educated, has some dust to polish off her or him, and to be able to step in and empower them to create a story that they can create this incredible life, to me is just such a amazing process, an amazing story to watch unfold. And it's something I love. I love seeing the success of people, especially my employees, our leadership team, the people in their departments. It's very gratifying to me, because when I go back, Jordan, I go back and when I started my career, and now I fast forward to where I am, it is a lot of work. It's a lot of risk. And be able to take someone and not have to put them through what I had to go through, the learning curve, and let the gray matter through my ears, through osmosis, bleed into them, is a special thing. And my employees are grateful for it. They understand. They're like, you got to respect the founder's journey. You have to, because if you don't, you lose. Because if you don't respect, and I'll tell all the your young listeners out there, is that if you're grateful and appreciate the process that the people in front of you have laid the roadmap for you so you can be successful and have opportunities, you will find success is a lot easier, because guess what? More opportunities come around. I think where I see people struggle is when they're not grateful for what has been presented to them, the opportunities, and they take it for granted. And guess what? Their attitude changes. And at the end of the day, they end up losing. And I encourage anyone is that really show gratitude for your opportunities. Show gratitude for the platform that's been established, because no one understands what it takes to build a platform like what we have. I mean, I've been in business for a little under 30 years. It's still evolving. And so it's something that I advise the younger generation and some of your younger listeners, is that take a step back, look at what was created for you to create an impact, for you to create opportunities, for you to generate income, for you to understand knowledge and how valuable that is, and how for you to save time from minimizing and shortening your learning curve.
100%. And I think the part about gratitude is so important, because it's just having the proper perspective and realizing that, like, you might be the assistant accountant, or you might be the investor relations, or you might be, but like, if you're the investor relations person, there's 1,000 investors on this list. That didn't just happen. That was 10,000 doors that were knocked. And like, you have to realize that this stuff takes time. And I think that proper perspective and realizing that about anyone, like, you know what I mean? If you're part of a startup, you're seeing the journey real time. You are part of the journey real time. And I love the fact that you mentioned that you give ownership, like a little bit of ownership in the deals, or I don't even know how that's structured, but where did that come to mind? Because I know it can be difficult sometimes, especially in commercial real estate. You're raising so much money. You have investors you owe, you have banks you owe, and to give out an extra percentage or percentage points to the employees, like how did that all work, and how did you think about that?
It's something that we continue to evolve and work on. There's different structures you could do, but the theory behind it was, I started thinking about it. I said, wouldn't it be great if the director of property management, who is managing all these properties, had an ownership interest in the properties that person is managing? How much more powerful would that person be, and how much more profitable would we be? And so it's just, you have to have a wide lens, and you have to open your mind to say, okay, well, why are we doing this? And what's the benefit? And so we looked at these things. We're constantly evolving. Every single day, we come up with new concepts, new marketing programs, new ways to build a better culture. We're really into figuring out how to build the best culture around with what we do. And it's a challenge, Jordan. I mean, it's not easy, but you have to just kind of think out of the box, and you got to have a lot of consultants and mentors and a lot of great people. One of the things I pride myself on in Alliance that we say is we're resource rich, is that wherever we go in the country, we have great resources. Now, we have resources that help us with commercial real estate acquisitions, dispositions, management, maintenance, tenant improvements, you name it, leasing brokers, investment sales brokers. But we also have great people that can come in and talk about mindset. We can talk about personal development. We could talk about how to get over issues. We can bring in consultants to help our employees train them. And that's a huge thing. That's part of the culture. And so it's interesting. Alliance is not a Ben Reinberg company anymore. It's a we. It's a consolidation of a group of great people that make things happen, that make people a tremendous amount of money to build wealth. And so it's just, you have to put your people first. You have to be mindful, and it's all about serving and giving back. And that's the message I have. I don't really worry about money. What I worry about is how can I be the best person I can be, and how can I serve as many people? Because the more people I serve and help, money just kind of flows down the river, and it attracts me. And so that's just the secret how it works.
I love that. And it's incredible because as I'm looking through and I'm doing research and I'm prepping for this podcast, I'm sitting there and I'm like, this guy is coming on the scene very, very quickly. And I'm like, he is a very established businessman. Why would he ever want to build a personal brand? Like, because there's the anonymous and rich, and then there's the rich and public. And people don't talk about that, but you were an established businessman. You still are an established businessman. And you're on having these podcasts with incredible people, over 100,000 followers on Instagram, growing on YouTube. Like, I see it. And I was sitting there, and I give you kudos and a round of applause, because I was sitting there and I'm like, I don't know how many people would not take this seriously. Like, most people would be like, I sell real estate. There's no way I'm selling it online. Like, people would be like, kick rocks. Because I mean, you're so established, but you're so nimble and changing. Where do you think that came from? And how's the personal brand been for you? Because that's a transition in its own capacity.
It is. I wasn't on, like we were chatting before, I was not on social media till little under a year ago. It's coming up on a year shortly, which is kind of neat, because I remember when we were just the genesis of talking about this. Folks on my staff, as well as colleagues of mine, said, Ben, you really need a personal brand. I said, why do I want to do that? And they're like, that's just more work. I'm already happy and excited. And they said, no, you're not getting it. You have a lot of knowledge that you should be sharing with people, that you owe it to them. And I took a step back, and I realized what that really meant. And I started looking at, I come from Chicago, born and raised. It's, even though I live in Southern California, Chicago is always my home. And it's a place that I love, and it's ingrained in me. And I see the violence that goes on in my city, and it kind of woke me up. And I remember waking up one morning, I said, then I was watching the news. I was still living in Chicago at the time. And I said, what if I could help someone on the south side of Chicago change their life through commercial real estate? What would that look like? What would it be if that person changed their whole dynamic, their whole paradigm, their legacy, where a young man or woman came to me, I could teach them commercial real estate, they could build wealth, and all of a sudden they changed the trajectory of that entire family's life. Maybe the kids go to college. Maybe the parents can buy a house. Maybe they can get out of an area that's just filled with drugs and violence that goes on in the Chicago area. And I kind of woke up one day, Jordan, and I said, you know what? I can make a difference. And so we said, well, how are we going to do this? Well, we're going to launch a personal brand. Okay. And not only that, Ben, the beautiful thing is it will enhance the company. It helps your employees. It builds brand awareness. It will help you raise equity, even more equity and more deal flow. And everyone will win that's around you. And you will feel more fulfilled. And I said, sign me up. And I said, what's this going to be like? They're like, we don't know. Could be a lot of work, but just jump in the water and everything will be fine. And that's what I did. I went right into the deep water, started swimming. And the first thing we did was we said, we're going to launch a podcast. And when I first launched it, I didn't know what it was going to be like. And a year later, I look back and just incredible guests, incredible content, um, great connections. People are pouring in incredible knowledge. I'm so grateful. Everyone I meet has a relevance to help me, and I help them, and just the knowledge I pour into. And then I'll be out and about and people see me and they say, thank you. I said, what for? And they're like, just thank you for that last reel you did, or thank you for the knowledge you gave, or I saw that podcast 2 months ago and it helped me get over something. You had so-and-so guest on, and I have a business, and it talked about how to deal with your leadership team and how to bring them together. And I started implementing that. And the next thing you know, I'm working with that guest you had on as a coach, and it's changed the trajectory of my business, my life, and my employees. It's priceless when you can hear those things. And that's what it's about. It's about giving back and serving. And I look at social media and I have a different viewpoint. I see a lot of people flashing cars and houses, and I see guys on there and I see people taking pictures in private planes, and they don't even own the plane, which is like crazy to me. And I see there's not a lot of authenticity. And I said to everyone, I said, I'm only doing this unless I could be really authentic and be myself. And so I don't show off. I don't show people where I live. I don't show much of my lifestyle. I don't need, yes, I dress nice, and I've been wildly successful in my career, and I'm not going to hide that. But I'm also not going to show people that that I'm this obnoxious guy that has to prove and pound his chest of what I drive, where I travel, how I live my life, all the great food I get to eat, all the great people I get to interact. Because to me, that's just ego. That's not helping people. What's helping people is giving them knowledge, sharing experiences, bringing on great people in my podcast to help others. And I realize that's what life is about. I don't need to prove myself how wonderful I am and how successful I've been. What I'm trying to prove and help is change people's lives, help them become better. And that's what I do for my employees too, is I'm always there as a giving mentality. And for your listeners out there, if you really want to get ahead in life, and I used to teach this about networking, I've written articles on networking, is give first, seek to understand before you're understood. And if you can give first, you will see the universe will reward you. You will create this abundance lifestyle. And it feels good too. So when I'm with people, I give referrals, I help people, people help me, and I attract incredible people in my life when I do that. People come to me with deals, people come to me with resources, people help me, because that's how I live my life. I live a life in a state of love and not in fear. And it's allowed me to create this world around me where it's just a beautiful place to be. And I just feel that, if people can be more authentic, just allow themselves to be themselves. And I say that, I mean, guys and women out there, they're trying to date and they're out and looking for their significant other and all these other things. What people want is for you to just be your authentic self. You don't have to show off. You don't have to pound your chest and tell people how wonderful you are. Just be yourself. Because guess what? That's what's attractive. Because people are like, well, what's attractive in business and life? What's attractive is when you can be yourself. You don't worry about what other people care, and you can just live your life how you want to live it. Because Jordan, what most people understand is everyone has their own DNA. We're all different. And if you understand that and respect that and appreciate it, guess what? Life becomes a lot easier.
Absolutely. And I mean, you brought up a bunch of points, a bunch of nuggets. And the thing everyone has to realize here is I love how you thought about social media and producing. Because the funny thing is, for me, I can post a picture of myself, like you're talking about doing a flashy, I'm on a cool trip or whatever. We'll get 100x more likes than me posting a clip of this because it's knowledge. But the funny thing is that people will come up to me later for the clips and they'll be like, yeah, I kind of agree with that. Like, I'm not going to say it out loud, but like I appreciate that. Like, because the thing is that it's a different mindset. Like, I view it as like the consumer producer of social media. Like, I talked to my group about this, where you could sit there and aimlessly scroll and consume, you have no control. If you're producing, you can control what comes out of your mouth. You have those ideas, you decide those. So that's super important. And then the other tidbit you had on the relationship, like the funniest part is that it's that authentic self. The first like 10 dates, cool. Like you dress up, you look nice, you go out. Eventually, you're going to end up on the couch watching Netflix. It's just going to happen. And it's like, do you like that person or do you not like that person when they're in that state? Not they're like, I'm A1 right now, or I look amazing, or we're at this nice dinner. Like, it's who do you want to make breakfast with? It's who do you want to just hang out with and just go to the gym with? And
It's a
yeah,
great point, because when you start building a relationship, whether it's business or personal, just there's a concept that a lot of people don't think about is time, right? So if you could just minimize time and just initially out of the bat be your authentic self. Let's just say you're a guy. Let's say, Jordan, you're going on a date, right? Wouldn't you rather be at a point where when you're with this girl, you could be your authentic self and she likes you for who you are and who you're becoming and everything else and believes in you, instead of this facade that, like you said, let's say you're on the fifth, sixth date, and then all of a sudden your authentic self can come out and she's like, I don't really like Jordan. So you wasted all this time and money and energy on someone. So why not do it up front? Why not be your authentic self up front? And if they don't like you, that's their loss. That if they don't like
I
Jordan Edwards, that's their problem. That's their loss. And you know what? You're better off. It's the same thing in business, right? It's like, be your authentic self. It'll build a deeper connection. It produces better results. And so I feel that, a lot of people have to wear a mask. And believe me, when I was in my 20s and 30s, in this business, you had to build a house of cards because you had to show you had money. You had to show you can close deals. You got to show you can perform. And that was a little bit different for me. And then all of a sudden you take off the mask and your authentic self and you're like, wow, this guy's different. He's a different person. And so that's what got me into personal development years ago. And then I doubled down 5 years ago to really enhance it, to become, because you start having to get rid of all these limited beliefs and all the junk that you've learned as a young age. And obviously the internet wasn't as prevalent when I was a kid. And so the education wasn't as abundant as it is, but also it wasn't as jaded as it is today. So with that being said, it's an interesting topic. And I advise everyone, whether it's business, relationships, personal, whatever, everyone you interact with, just be yourself. Because you know what? That's what people resonate with. Because guess what? People will mirror that. It's like when you could just be yourself and be like, this is who I am, take it or leave it. Guess what? It opens the curtain. It lowers the barriers. It lowers those walls to say, oh, thank God I could just be myself around Jordan. I can go and, like you said, watch Netflix. I could be myself. I can get on my ugly pajamas and hang with him. And he's not going to judge me because he loves me for who I am. And we can connect on a deeper level. Guess what? You build loyalty, deeper connections, better relationships. It goes on and on. And so I think people lose that knowledge when they're in relationships so I encourage people, serve, help, give, and be yourself.
absolutely. And even I have a group, it's called Edwards Consulting. And literally what we do is it's people who are looking for a group and not like, hey, I'm a loser, I have no friends. It's no, I have a ton of friends, but we're just not having the conversations we need to have. And like, that's why I do this podcast. So I can have incredible conversations and guests like Ben on, where it's Friday afternoon on Good Friday. Like I'm on the East Coast, it's 5:53. Everyone's probably done with work, but I'm learning from Ben where it's like, dude, you've built an incredible business. You're pivoting, you're doing so many cool things. And it's like, what allows that to occur for you? And when you say you double down on personal development, what do you think that really was? Was that joining a group, researching? What was that for you?
Well, just to kind of take a step back, why it happened was I was looking in the mirror one day and I didn't really like what I saw. I didn't like the version of myself. And so I started realizing that I have to change. And as my kids aged, I realized that I had to change. And you evolve. We all evolve. I'm not the same guy I was when I was 23. starting this company. I'm not the same guy I was when I was 40. I'm much different. And so I got into personal development. I have some of the best mentors and coaches around the world. And I work with multiple. I don't work with one. I have a lot in my arsenal. And what it allowed me to do was kind of go back to when I was a kid and get rid of some of those experiences that I might have had when I was younger, or allowed me to resolve issues I had in business that had scars from all the battles and the deals I've done, or maybe the moments where I was traveling, I couldn't be with my kids as much as I wanted to. So I had to heal myself. I had to go back and go through time and go through myself and accept and love myself. And I had to realize that all the things that I went through were because of the ability to get to this point in my life. And I wouldn't be the man I am today if I didn't start personal development. So I got into personal development and learned about the mind and the body connection and how to control my emotions and how to become the best version of myself. And it's been an incredible ride and process. And I do it every day. I'm very big into it now. And I realize how much it's helped me. It's made me better as a host of my podcast, a better employer, a better family man, a better friend. And so,
Yeah.
and a better guest on podcasts too.
And the thing that no one realizes is that, look, 5 years ago, Ben is still doing incredibly successful in the outsider's eye. Everyone's seeing him and probably goes, oh, Ben's got the life. Not this guy. He's good. He's just, the vulnerability you're sharing right now is, I really appreciate that, because there's so many of us who go, I want financial success. Financial success is what it's going to, and I put that word in front of it because we correlate success so much of the time with finances. But I also see that you're incredibly fit. I see that you're on top of it. Last time we were talking, you're like, hey, can't do that early. I got the trainer. Or you're talking with your kids, or you're doing like, because when I view life, I view it in 5 pillars. There's mental health, physical health, community service, philanthropy, spirituality, and relationships. That's just what I view for Edwards Consulting. And we can't always be a 10 in all the areas, but we can at least try. We can make a point that, like, hey, it's not about just the promotion or just that deal. It's about me living a holistic lifestyle. And what is that kind of, where do you see that with you? Because I see you have many different areas of your life that you kind of
Yeah.
promote, help, and do.
I have a routine. I work out with my trainer at least 5 days a week, and I get up well before the roosters are crowing, as we would say in the Midwest. And you just get up and you do it, and there's no excuses. And so again, that's keeping my word. One of the things is keeping my word and keeping it to others. I encourage everyone, if you can keep your word to yourself and say, look, I'm going to get up at the crack of dawn. I'm going to do my morning routine, and then I'm going to go work out with my trainer, and then I'm going to get in the office. And I do that, and it allows me to create a lot of success and help people too. And so again, I want to be the best version of myself. So I'm into my health. I eat healthy. I don't, even though I collect wine, people are like, do you drink? And I said, not really. Once in a while I'll have a glass of wine, Jordan, but like, I don't drink nearly as much as I used to. I barely drink. I drink a lot of sparkling water is my thing. I'm a big Pellegrino guy, or tap water, or
Well,
still waters.
when you start tracking the sleep, because I have like a Fitbit, when you start the sleep and like the drinking and the effects of it are just, I don't get me wrong, I still drink, but your sleep recovery is just not even close.
Right. And
Like,
so sleep is the number one way to improve your health. So I try to get 8 hours. It's not easy, but especially as you get older. But when I was younger, 8 hours was like easy. Now it's a little bit more challenging. So I'm always trying to figure out how to get the best sleep. But at the end of the day, Jordan, it's so important, your health, and your health will help you create success in your life, because how you show up every day as a person is so important. So your mental health is so critical. And that's what spurred the personal development, is just kind of becoming the best version of myself inside of me. So on the outside, I can help people. Because I said this before, I was on my podcast and someone asked me about it. I said, if I'm not the best version of myself, how am I going to help people? I'm not doing anyone a service. So what does that mean? It means working out, eating healthy, sleeping, working on myself, personal development, and all the realms that I need to do. And I realize that's what's important. So, and how do I improve my relationships and everything else? And so that's what I've doubled down on. And I've just realized that there's just an importance to it. And I didn't know this when I was younger. So with my kids, I always encourage them. And I also, one of the things, touch back on the personal brand is I want to be a good role model to my kids and show them like, this is what dad does. They're older now. This is why I'm doing it. I'm serving and impacting people. And it's not my words, it's my actions. My kids, and for all you folks that maybe are parents or soon to be parents, your kids don't want to hear words. What they want to hear is they want to see actions, because that's what influences them. That's what empowers them. That's where you can create success with your children. And as they grow older, my kids are young adults and they'll be in the working world very soon, is that I want my actions to show them that I don't just talk, I do it. And that I have a great work ethic. I care about people. I conduct myself with integrity. And this is how you should look at living your life. And so actions are so important. And it's why it leans into why I did the personal brand. It's why I do the podcast. It's why I help people, is because not only do I enjoy doing it, but it's really a good way to show your kids, like, this is an option for you if you want to be fulfilled in your life.
I think that's absolutely incredible. And have you felt that because the thing you just described where you're like, yeah, I got to be the best version of myself because I'm talking to these people, I'm influencing people. Have you felt the personal brand has actually put a more, because you want to live a congruent lifestyle. If you say, hey, this is the right way to do things, you want to do that because you don't want to be a hypocrite. And have you feel that a little bit? Because when you were saying that, that's exactly how I feel. That's why I'm like, I post every time I go to the gym. I'm at the gym 110 times this year already, because I'm like, I want a goal of 300 and I want people to know what I'm working on, because it's the accountability, it's the truth. It shows you that anything's possible. But do you find that the personal brand has been your forced accountability a little bit? Because it's like, hey, are you really being the best version?
It's a great question. I think the personal brand is just more of an offshoot of me, of who I am. I think nothing's really changed of who I am. I mean, the nice thing is that I get to network with great people, but I don't really deal with much of my content. I have a whole team of people that deal with it. But even my trainer, like, he'll shoot content and I don't even know he's doing it. And then he posts it on his, and then my social media folks pick it up and they post it. And so I don't really show people when I'm training much. It's always coming from someone else, from one of the trainers I work with throughout the years. But for me, I like it because it's not the accountability, it's the ability to share knowledge. So for example, I was at one of our properties. We own properties around the United States, and one of our properties in Arizona, we had a videographer there, and it was really rewarding because it really got me in my element to start talking about knowledge about what we do. And it was really gratifying. That to me is the real cool thing about social media and the benefits of it. But I don't know if it makes me accountable. It's more about it. It's gratifying to me that I can share my knowledge and also share the things that I've learned, and also be authentic and show people like, hey, he's just a normal guy. He's just a dude. He's got
Well,
a podcast. He's going on as a guest. He's running his company, Alliance. He cares about people, and he's out there having fun. And so the personal brand has been really enjoyable. I'm really having fun, and the podcast is so enjoyable. I love it. But I look at more as like, it's an offshoot of me to give a little bit of flavor and insight of who I am and what I can offer to people.
that's awesome. And I would be remiss, because I know we're winding down on time.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about what Alliance. I know it's commercial real estate. I know it's medical. I know it's recession resilient. Can you dive into that a little bit? Because I know I wanted to touch on that for
Yeah.
sure.
So Alliance, what we do is we're office, industrial, and retail experts. We're what in the business called principals. We are landlords. We own and we manage our portfolio. And we bring in high net worth accredited investors as well as family offices that invest in our syndications as well as funds. And we've been around for a little under 3 decades. And about 18 years ago, we decided we want to expand into medical office. So we've grown that portfolio significantly. About 5 years ago, we got into veterinarian office as well. And so a lot of our focus now is on medical office. So we launched a new fund called the Alliance Medical Property Fund. And that fund is currently raising a lot of money, and we're out there buying assets. And at the end of the day, we'll continue with that. We're going to launch a new industrial fund probably later this year, which is going to be exciting. And we just continue to grow. We've added, I don't know, 8 to 10 people in the last month. And
wow.
so we're doubling down on staff. We think there's going to be tremendous opportunities, and we're excited. And Jordan, we're looking forward to 23 and 24 and 25 and 26, and we have certain goals in mind. And shortly, my leadership team is going to take over this company, and I'll be able to walk out and and believe me, they'll be happy to shut the door on me and say, "All right, old man, it's time for you to kind of graze into the pasture, and you've done your job. Thank you. We're all grateful for the platform and your hard work." And I'll be more of a chairman role instead of a CEO role. And now I'm kind of somewhat in the day to day, but I have great talented people. Like I said, 200 plus years of leadership team experience is just a cool thing to watch. And so I have such talented men and women that work here. We have a lot of women that work here now, especially on the leadership team, which I'm really proud of. And it's a testament to my mother. She was very influential on me. She taught me how to treat women and how to deal with women. And at the end of the day, it's interesting how we have a lot of women that now work for us, which I'm extremely grateful and proud of. And so at Alliance, we call ourselves fiduciary capital. If people want to invest with us, they can go to alliancecgc.com. It's charliegeorgecharlie.com. And they can see what we do. And it's a great website. There's testimonials. People can look me up on LinkedIn. And, they can go to benreinberg.com and see me on all the social media platforms, as well as to just learn about commercial real estate and how they can build wealth and a legacy as well. And then obviously, like we talked about, my podcast, Ben Reinberg, I Own It, is on all the different social podcast platforms that you can listen to. And then, we're on everything else, like you said, YouTube and TikTok and all these cool little platforms. And so it's a way to really engage with me and learn. So if you love commercial real estate like I do, or investing, that's a great way. If you're into health and wealth and mind and body and creating success to significance, that's what I talk about on my show. So feel free to log on and come join the ride.
Awesome. And I'll put all the links in the show notes. And the best part about like watching Ben's content or kind of getting into it, looking at all the websites, is a lot of it can be for a beginner. A lot of it is for situations where you're like, I might be commercial real estate, but I have no clue. And that, like, for me, I'm like limited experience in commercial real estate. I'm going through everything. I'm like, dang, like he's got this article, this one. How do you handle this situation? So it's a ton of knowledge. It's the school of hard knocks. It gives you the information. So I'd recommend everyone just check it out. And obviously, if you're interested, reach out to Ben and his team, and I'll put the links in the show note. But Ben, I wish we had more time. You're absolutely incredible, and this was a lot of fun, and I hope we can have you on again.
Yeah, thanks, Jordan. It was a real treat to be on. I had a lot of fun. So thanks for having me on. It was great.